Hi there, folks. How are you? It's Rev Paul here from St. Augustine of Canterbury Anglican Church. It's great to be back again. As promised to Vestry last weekend, I am going to be back online again with my messages from the truck. Sometimes they'll be from the truck, sometimes they'll be from other places, but this afternoon, it's actually from the truck. Welcome back. It's good to have you here. Just a couple of quick thoughts that I had this week as I've been listening to the scriptures and reading the scriptures and listening to some conversations about scriptures. It actually, strangely enough, for those of you who know the band AC/DC, now I know that's not something that we usually talk about in church, but if you know the band, it's an Australian rock band from the late 70s and the 80s. AC/DC had this song called Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. And the whole premise of the song, I mean, it's a song. If you like AC/DC, you know what the song is about. If you don't like AC/DC, you're probably not going to want to look it up because it's an acquired taste, we'll call it. But the basic premise of the song is, we will do anything you want to do as long as you pay us. Right? That's basically what it comes down to. It's an interesting conversation because there's a moral relationship with money in the conversation, right? In the song. It talks about whether or not we would be willing to do something as long as you give us enough money. And I think when I've been listening to the scriptures this week, particularly the passage from the Gospel of Luke, I keep hearing that idea of our moral relationship with money coming up. So we know this is the story, they call it the story of the shrewd manager, the story of the dishonest manager. It's got lots of stories in scripture. But it's a story about a manager who has been squandering his employer's money. He's been stealing from his employer, essentially what it comes down to. And the owner of this company, the owner of this business, farm, whatever it happens to be, has found out that this manager has been squandering his funds. So he says, that's it. He said, I'm coming to find out what you've done. Get your affairs in order because you're in big trouble, fella. And as he makes that journey, as the manager realizes, I got to do something. I'm too old to be working in the fields. I can't dig. I can't do any of that other work. And he said, I know what I'll do. I'll take some of the money that my boss has made over the years dishonestly. Right? We know that a lot of these business owners were doing things by charging taxes that were way above what the rate should have been, and charging exorbitant amounts of interest on loans and on extended credit for purchases and so on. So this business manager goes and does the exact same thing that the owner has been doing all along, and steals from his manager, from his owner. He gives away debt. So he goes to one person and says, how much do you owe? 100 containers of oil. Make it 50, right? Says to another, how much do you owe? 100 containers of wheat. So make it 80. He basically, he gives away his owner's wealth in exchange for, one day I'm going to need a favor. It's interesting because the question that comes to mind for me is, what would you be willing to do in that case? Right? So, the whole, would you steal a loaf of bread because your family was starving? I hear it also as, what would you be willing to do for $1 million? What would you be willing to do for $1 million? It's a tricky question, right? Yeah, I'd be willing to do this or this or this, but there's usually, for most of us, a moral compass. There's a line there somewhere that says, yeah, I'm willing to go this far, but that's it for me, right? In this case, that business manager has gone a little bit beyond what the owner thinks is fair, but then looks at him and says, you did what I've been doing forever. Well done, good job on you. I don't know. It's a struggle. So Jesus sort of wraps up this whole passage and says, you know what? You got to make a decision. You got to decide, are you going to have a moral relationship with money? Are you going to worship at the altar of money, of cash, of wealth? Or are you going to worship at the altar of God, who says that we need to treat everybody fairly, that we need to treat everybody with dignity? It's an interesting conversation. I know it's a pretty easy answer. Yeah, well, I would never act like the shrewd business manager. But what have you done maybe? Were you willing to shortchange your boss that 2 weeks notice because he got a better offer for a job that had a little bit more money and you left the guy stranded? I don't know. Would you be willing to, pay a little bit less for, cheat maybe a tiny little bit on your taxes by claiming, or forgetting to claim a little bit of income? Or would you be willing to falsify a document, perhaps a loan application, to see if maybe you could squeak out an extra couple $1,000s on that loan to get that car you want? Is that cheating? Is that a weird place in your moral responsibility, your moral relationship with wealth? It could be. So this is maybe a chance for us as we listen to Scripture this week, as we enter into church tomorrow morning, to listen to it and say, I wonder where I sit on that. I wonder where my moral compass points. And I wonder what that line in the sand is for me. Hopefully, as far as Jesus is concerned, as far as our faith is concerned, hopefully your line's pretty low. Right? You're not willing to give up any of your morality for the sake of wealth. But as Jesus says, we can't worship both. So we got to make a choice. Good luck on your choice making this week. I'm just going to leave it at that for right now. I don't want to give away too much of tomorrow's sermon. Speaking of tomorrow, a couple of things to share with you, announcements for the community and so on. Tomorrow is September the 18th. It's the 15th Sunday after Pentecost. Our parish council at St. Augustine is going to be meeting after church. So, make sure that if you're on parish council, you've planned for that. We'll meet probably starting at about 10:30 once worship is done. A couple of other events going on. Of course, we have the Queen's funeral service on Monday morning for those that want to be bright and early risers at 5 a.m. as we say our final farewell to the defender of the faith for the last 70 years. All Saints will be hosting a City of Windsor civic service that takes place on Monday evening at 6 p.m. There will be a cathedral service for the Diocese of Huron. There will be a service that comes up for us on Thursday, the 22nd of September. Watch your deployment docs for more information around that. And then also, we have, of course, All Saints has got their chicken dinner coming up on Wednesday. If you're interested in that, just send a message to the church at All Saints, and I'm sure they'll be happy to set you up with a dinner. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We've got Bible study going on. We've got our parish cleanup day on the 1st of October. There's so many things going on. It's clearly back into that busy time of year. You know what, for right now, I invite you to pay attention to your email, check your messages there, and check for announcements and so on there. In the meantime, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. Blessings to you from the truck this afternoon. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.